everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Pat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey Kat, hey everyone, how are you?
A really exciting episode today. I know I always say that, but this one really is exciting to me.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
So it's a guest we've had before, and that's always nice. It's like revisiting. That's always cool to see what people are up to. And pick up kind of where you left off in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a catch-up episode. It's more of a follow-on episode, I guess you would say.
Yeah, this one's really different like that. And I wonder, so Courtney Gains is our guest, and first time we had him on, we talked about the backstory of how he got into acting and Children of the Corn, and, we went through all the movies,
Yep.
Memphis Belle and The Burbs, and, just so many. But I guess, like, this episode, I'm thinking, so he's crossed over into music. He still acts, and he has that really long career in
Right.
acting. But, he's now singing and putting out music, writing music and performing music. And I just wonder, it's hard, I think, to be in one career path and then cross over into another one. I mean, it's not impossible because people do it all the time.
Right.
But, let's so not different jobs per se, but like completely different careers, or, how many have you had that are just like totally different?
Probably, I would guess like 4 or 5.
I mean, do you find like you identify, as one of them, like, more than the others? Like, I feel like this is me.
I mean, probably more so with design because I did that for the longest amount of time.
And so, like, if you were to cross over into, I don't know, musician, would that be hard?
Probably, sure, because, I mean, I don't, I'm not a good musician, so
Well,
make it a little tough to
you
eat.
don't have to be, right? You can just, like, Milli Vanilli made it work, like, lip sync,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, well, I can't sing for crap, so.
Well, that's like, really, you can't honestly hear yourself the way you sound. I'll just throw that out there to you. But, I'm just thinking, like, in a way, music and acting are, they're both performance. So they're not totally unrelated, but just because you're really good at one doesn't mean you'd be really good at another.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's been plenty of people who have tried getting into music from acting and didn't work out as well as they would hope.
Yeah, like a Yellowstone, there's an example of like Kevin Costner acting, directing. Then next thing you know, he's touring with a band.
Yeah, that's true. He was. But I mean, I guess when I guess when you reach a certain level as an actor, excuse me, you can do things like that because a lot of people will come and see you just based off your name.
Right.
So I would guess there's some of that going on, but I mean, I'm sure he's a fine musician. I've never heard any of his stuff, so.
Yeah, I actually did listen to Courtney Gains. I did listen to one of his songs, and it's really, really cool actually. Um, and I want to talk to him about how the style and that kind of thing. Um, if I guess, like for me, I in some ways had different careers. Like I was a teacher
Right.
for the longest time, and now if I don't know if you want to call it a career per se, but a new venture.
Well, I
Um,
mean, you're making money at it, right? So it is technically a career.
well, I mean, it's it's like I guess I think people will always think of me as the teacher because after 27 years, that's what people
Right. Yeah.
that's a lot of time that people knew me in that way.
Right.
Um, but this is not really that much different because it's in a similar field. Or if I'm writing plays, that's also like not all that different because I wrote plays while I was teaching and people knew that I did that and that I had
Right.
plays published and whatever. But I just find it interesting. Like, I don't really feel like a teacher anymore, like after I was away for a couple of years, it really didn't seem like, that defined me anymore. But
So you don't think you'd be able to go back into the classroom and teach a class?
I would. Um,
Oh,
I
okay.
still have I still have the skill, but I just don't like identify that way anymore. I guess. Like when I was teaching, it was like that was my identity. I'm a teacher.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I didn't have any job, when I retired, it was like, who am I? I'm fill in the blank. There's like,
Yeah.
nothing to put in the blank. So I really like didn't have an identity of a job anymore. So, now it feels different again. And so I just wonder, with Courtney Gaines, like, to me, he's always like that redheaded kid that scare me to death. In Children of the Corn,
Right.
Malachi. I even like, that name like frightens me to think about. Which, what if I were to watch it as an adult, like right now, maybe I wouldn't even have the same reaction. It might look, cheesy, scary, or something. But
Right.
I remember watching it at the time, and I was quite like, oh my gosh, because I do not like, I'm not a scary movie kind of person. So,
Right. Well, I mean, in Courtney's defense, I'm sure he's still acting. I don't think he's given up one for the other.
no, I don't think so either. I'll just be curious to see if he like does he plan to like try to reach that same level in music as he did with acting? Is this like a second conquest or something? I don't know, but um, it's really cool
Yeah.
because I do love music. You love music, so
Mm-hmm.
we sort of love movies.
The ones that we've seen, sure.
Yeah, we could probably not name too many recent ones, but
Yeah. The Downton
hey.
Abbey movie was the last one I saw.
Yeah, well, I was right there. The new series coming out, by the way, possibly on that. But I find Courtney Gaines' story, um, his backstory already interesting, and I find anyone interesting really that's crossing over into some new venture. Um, and you know, I just can't wait to hear how it works. How do you like what makes you decide like okay that wasn't enough that I've been in like 140 something movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna like do this.
Well, I mean, some people, I don't know if they, yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I mean, maybe they get bored and they just want to branch out into something new. Um, maybe, you know, somebody's pushing them to it, or I don't know.
Well, there could be a lot of reasons for it. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes you have like well, okay, like when we first met, you hadn't written a play,
true.
and then you discovered like you're really good at it. So
Yeah, but
it could
that,
be.
I mean, that was kind of a fluke, I think.
Yeah, but who's to say? Like flukes sometimes turn out to be like you discover something about yourself that you did not know.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. I mean, now I have, a bunch of plays and won some awards and written a book and actually a couple books. I swear the other ones are coming out soon.
Keep saying it because send it to the universe. It's gonna happen.
That's
No,
right.
it will. I mean, I have no doubt that it will. You'll get the books out. But I just feel like that happens sometimes too. And even later in life, oftentimes I think people discover um, things that maybe you were too busy. Like when I was teaching, I didn't have time to really like do anything else. It was because it was busy with stuff like that, and
Right.
that was the world. Um, and then when you don't have that identity anymore, and you have a little bit of time or a lot of time, then you might discover another talent or another way to use a talent that you've been interested in developing. So, I'll be very curious to see what's the story there, how it works for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
And this is the 40th year anniversary of Children of the Corn. So,
Wow, 40 years. Damn.
I know, like, so that would be, I would have been 18 when that came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. I would have been 20. Trying to remember what
Yeah.
I was doing then.
I mean, I thought I was younger.
Yeah,
So let's go with that. It was like about 6.
right. All right, well, let's talk to Courtney and see what's happening.
All right. Well, Courtney, I want to welcome you to sessions. It's really great to get to catch up with you again.
Thanks. Good to be here. Yeah, I forgot. It's been about 2 years since we talked. I forgot that it was not a Zoom. I was going, hey, are we Zooming or what? Now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah. So the 2 years, I think you were promoting Queen Bees. I think it was.
I
So
think I was promoting Queen Bees, Charming the Hearts of Men, and also my acoustic record at that time, Courtney Gains, Acoustic Gains Volume 1. So that was 2 years ago.
wow. It some ways it really does not seem like that long, but you know,
Mm-mm.
catch us up with what's been going on with music and acting from that point, and then we're going to talk a lot about your music today.
Yeah, well, let's see. Roughly, what can I remember? I did a really good guest star on a show called Tales for BET, where I played this, really bad, corrupt cop. That was a lot of fun. Last time I looked any kind of clean cut, and then the last couple of things I did I had a movie called Becky, Wrath of Becky, come out this year that gotten into South by Southwest, so that was pretty awesome, and it's doing very well. It's a sequel to a movie called Becky that came out in 2020, and then they're already going to do a third one, so it's becoming a franchise. So that's cool. And the other thing I did last year that was really cool is I got cast in a video game for Rockstar, but they're very secretive. They wouldn't tell me what it was, so I was up there doing this really fun character that ran a drug lab, made all this acid. It turned out to be Grand Theft Auto. So for their Los Santos Drug Wars, their online game. So it ended up being a two-parter. First one came out in December. Second one came out in March. Character came out great. I call it my ode to Dennis Hopper, and you can check out the cut scenes, or they call the uncut scenes, online. really, really fun character. So some pretty good roles lately. So I've been pretty happy with all that.
So the video game, that's a new kind of thing. I don't think we talked about that before. So
Right.
what was that like?
Well, actually, it's my third video game I've done in my career, and all three of them have been pretty significant, which has been nice. The first one was Wing Commander 3, which they eventually made a movie, but it was the first time they actually had enough RAM to use human beings. That was like 92, I think. And then the second one I did was a video game called LA Noir, which was the first time they ever used real facial recognition. And that was very difficult. You had to do the bodysuit stuff separate, and then months later go back and do the facial recognition. You had to spend like an hour blow drying your hair so it was like a helmet, so no light could come through it. It was very strange. And you had to go in this room, and they had all these cameras, and you couldn't move your head at all, and you had to do one line at a time. It was very, very, very arduous. And now that same company, Rockstar, that was part of that, did this one, and the technology's come a long way. You're in the bubble suits, and they have these helmets with like almost like a football helmet, and then in the front part where there's a grid, there's just a camera mounted right there, and that gets all your facial recognition. So 10 times as fast, and you're much more free to do things. So I've actually been part. I mean, to be part of the Grand Theft Auto franchise, this blows my mind. So I've been part of some pretty significant video games, which I'm not really into video games all that much. So it's pretty kind of surprising that I have any kind of history there.
Well, I mean, it's pretty diverse when you think about it. You've had like a really long acting career, and of course you've got the music career and franchises of video games that you're part of. So that's really cool. Um, so I want to talk about your music career because you've got the EP, I think, coming out October 2nd. So that's just not far away. But your career has primarily been acting.
Sure.
But so how is music? Do you look at that as like a second career, a hobby, or how do you see it?
I think it's progressed from a hobby now to something I'm doing professionally. Career, I don't know, but I don't have to need it. I don't have to make a living at it. So my approach to it's been very different than my acting career. I started studying acting and music at the same time at 13 years old, but I knew I wanted to be a professional actor. So I continued to train for like 20 years as an actor. Either I was teaching or I was in a class the whole time I was in LA. Now as a musician, after a few years I stopped taking lessons because sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I didn't want to know too much because I wanted to write, because that's what I really like to do, is the writing part of music. But I felt if I knew too much and I learned too many other people's material, that I would then start comparing everything I tried to do to somebody else's material. I didn't want to do that. And I think in hindsight, it really worked out for me because I've been writing now, for 20 years and have a lot of material. And now that I have a band called the Courtney Gains group, where it's a trio where I play bass and sing in the Southeast, and you have to do 3 sets a night. So you have to do like 70% covers. Now I'm learning a lot of covers, and it's already happening where I'm like, oh, wow, these are the same chord progressions to the song I wrote, or similar, or in the same key, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad I didn't know before, because I wrote more freely, I think. So so this EP is a 6-song EP called Safe Haven, coming out October 2nd. You can only get it on fakefangrecords.com. So this time I got a label behind me, which is a real nice step. And now I got a booking agent behind me to be able to go promote it. It's like I'm putting the pieces together to actually be able to go out and do this thing. And this is a storytelling record. Like my Acoustic Gains record which was much more personal and introspective. This is really a much more storytelling driven type thing, calling BS on things I think are shallow. Like one song's called Bills in Space. It's got kind of a surf groove, and it's about the billionaire space race, which I think is I think it's the biggest ego trip on the planet right now. That's what I think.
Okay, we're definitely going to talk like in more detail about these, but I hear that you have a really interesting backstory about playing on stage with fish.
Yeah, that's true. So that's a long story.
Yes, and I want to hear it because it sounds fascinating.
So many moons ago, right before Can't Buy Me Love came out, so I'm trying to remember, like maybe 86 or so, friend of mine got married in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I decided to hitchhike to Michigan to go see this girl because I thought it was like the last time I could get away with something like that. And ended day two. I'm on my way trying to get across the country. This guy picks me up, named Mike Gordon. He turned out to be the bass player from Fish. Before they were big, when they were still playing in Nectar's in Burlington, Vermont, which has a great jam scene. That's what they came out of. They're a jam band, but there's a whole jam scene there. And we hit it off. And then next thing I know, he's like, "Hey man, we're opening for Santana at the Greek. Come on down." Blah, blah. Next thing you know, "Hey man, we're headlining at the Greek," and they just blew up. So I became friends with the guys, mainly Mike. But they had this friend of theirs who was always pulling pranks on them. But turned out his Achilles heel, his weak spot was Malachi. So they kept trying to come up with a way for me to set something up to scare the crap out of this guy. And all the ideas that came up were just too much, too arduous. And I was just like, nah. And finally, they came up with one that worked. They were in Vegas doing a gig, so it was easy for me to get there. And they were like, "We'll fly out, blah blah." And they came up with an idea, but we're gonna throw this big party in a penthouse, get this guy high on mushrooms, and take him out in the casino. And when he comes back, the movie Children of the Corn is going to be playing. You're going to be hiding in one of the bedrooms. We're going to peel off, and then Trey, who's also a redhead, is going to be the last one to leave. He's going to come into that room. We're going to put on his jacket, and you're going to go sit there next to him watching the movie. So that's what went down. They were expecting like him to just scream or something, right? But he obviously had tripped before, so he figured he was tripping. He was super scared. I could see it in his eyes. And he goes, "Oh, hey," and he gets up like really slow and walks out of the room, and they're like, "Was he scared? Was he scared?" I was like, "Oh, dude, he was really scared," because he didn't scream or anything. Then they went to go talk to him, and he was lying down on a floor in a bedroom, and he couldn't utter a syllable for 45 minutes. And
Did you
so
feel bad, or did you feel like, "Oh, this worked. This is funny"?
Well, when he couldn't utter a syllable for 45 minutes, they felt incredibly successful because he was just like literally going like, "Ah!" you know? So I saw the guy the next day. He loved it. No hard feelings. So now the band is just over the moon because they've been planning this thing for years. So at that point, it was like I was in the total good graces. They're like, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, let me come out and jam with you guys." They're like, "Done." So I would have played some guitar, but Larry and Les from Primus were also coming out for this final song. So I just played some percussion, but I got to play in front of like 7,000 people in Vegas. So it was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. And, maybe this is like another branch of your career is like people that are afraid of Malachi. You can they can rent you, to come and do something similar. Pretty cool.
Either that or, you got to be a big enough band to get me to do it. There you go. But no, it was the ultimate prank. The guy, I guess, had it coming. I guess he'd been pranking them for years. So and he was a great sport about it. So that's the good news.
So back when you had acting and music, and I think you said you were 13, did you ever consider that music might be the career path, or did you always know it was going to be acting?
Well, my intention was acting. I was interested in music, but I never had the same kind of support that I had. I never caught a break where somebody that could help influence things in the right direction, happened. So I think that was the other component of it. Is I think that in acting, I had a mentor from the time I was 13 who was an actor who then became a manager and broke me into the business and all those things. And those things really made a huge, huge difference in getting results. But I started taking lessons at 13. I started writing by 15. I had a band called The Gathering, acoustic band in LA in the 80s during the metal scene. There was a coffee house scene that I was part of we were very successful. We had some interest, but then the band broke up. Once I got married and had a kid, I was like, if we're not hitting the road and getting serious, I got to go back to acting where I make money, and that's what happened. So we just weren't able to keep it together. So that was my first, maybe my second band. And then I started doing solo stuff, and then I had a band, Ripple Street, in LA for, gosh, I don't know, on and off for 10 years. And then now I got this Courtney Gains group. But like I said, out here in Savannah, it's a lot easier to actually make some money and keep a band together, because if I can pay guys, I can get good guys to play, and that's what I'm doing. So.
And what is it that you like about performing music?
Well, like I said, the number one thing I like about music is the writing. That is one of the biggest creative highs for me because I can't explain it. When some lyrics start coming or a groove starts coming and an idea, you have to get it down. Like it may take 10 minutes, it may take an hour. You just have to get it out because you can't walk away from it or you'll lose it. So it's like this sort of creative juices thing that happens. That's really cool. Performing, that's what's been great about this gig where I've been performing pretty steadily, like almost every weekend at least. I'm starting to be able to get over the anxiety of it because it's a little more anxiety ridden than performing as an actor where I'm creating a character. I've had to learn to create a band act, and for the last 9 months. That's what I've been doing so that we can take this band out on the road and promote this record. And now it's starting to become fun. So what I like about it is the main thing I like about it is playing original material for people and seeing how they react to it. I like one of the songs in the record is called The Healer, and I tell people like, this is told from the point of view of a plastic surgeon. The look on their faces, like, what is this dude talking about? But then they tune in and listen to the song because they want to figure out what's going on, and that's really fun.
So you wrote all of the songs on this EP that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, that's really tough. First off, 3 of the songs were older and 3 of the songs are new. 3 of the songs were actually in a movie I produced and started called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness. It came out in 2006, and we were supposed to do a record off of that, and it never happened. So that was part of the unfulfilled thing I wanted to get out there. And one of those songs I'd had for a long time called Good Times, and even when the acoustic band would get people up and dance. So it's got a real good groove to it. So I'd have to say, if I had to pick one, I'd have to say Good Times just because it's the oldest song and it's the song I've played the most.
So what is the first song that you ever wrote that you felt like was a song?
Yeah, so the first band I was ever in was the 3 actors called the Rooftop Boys, and we recorded some stuff and I recorded one of my songs called Misty Afternoon Blues, and it's on I have a record called Gains 1988 to 1999. That's a compilation of a bunch of songs I had in the band The Gathering and some singles, and even that song's in there. I still play it, and I think it's a solid song. I think what was most important for me is that at that point I started believing that I could write. And that's what I believe in the most for me as a musician is I believe I can write a song. There's tons of musicians out there that can sing better than me, that can shred better than me, that are way more accomplished musicians. But just because you're an accomplished musician doesn't necessarily mean you can write a good song, in my opinion. Some can, some can't. So I've hung my hat on that I can write a good song, and I think even that song I still play it to this day because I think it's well written. So Misty Afternoon Blues.
What is the writing process like for you? Do you get lyrics and melody? Do they come together to you, or is it almost like the song has a life of its own and you're just a medium for it to come out, or what's it like?
To some degree, that's absolutely true. That you feel like you're a medium and it's just coming out. But for me, it happens in a variety of ways. One way it happens is just sometimes. Like I do this thing called Morning Pages that was from The Artist Way, a book that came out, I don't know, maybe a decade ago that was very popular. You do this thing called Morning Pages where you write like 15 minutes, like 3 pages of just whatever's on your mind, just free form to kind of dump the garbage out of your head to start your day. I've been doing it now for a long time. And sometimes in that, ideas will just start flowing. And so it's a good way to just get the creative juices happening. So sometimes it comes that way. Sometimes it's just an idea I have, I hear some line I think's cool, or a hook that I think's cool. Or like I was watching the whole Billionaire Space Race, and I thought, it all kicked in after William Shatner went up, and I looked at the Blue Origins, and I think like many people, I thought this looks like a dick. It looks like, so I said it much nicer in the song. I say it in the bridge. Blue Origins looks like a prophylactic. Prophylactic. Because I think that's the ego trip it is too. I really do. And so like an idea like that'll spawn a whole song. But sometimes the title track Safe Haven, when I decided to pick up bass in this band, when I had to start realizing to play out here, you had to play 3 45-minute sets and do some covers. I decided I was going to pivot to bass because I needed a better guitar player, because I needed somebody that could play lead better than I could. And so when I pivoted to bass, I just found this really cool riff, and which I think is a really good riff. When you hear the song, you'll decide for yourself. But I really like it. And then I don't know. Then that spawned Safe Haven, which I think has sort of double entendres of meanings. One, that I think we all need a home. I think about the homelessness situation. I think it just flabbergasts me that in a country as wealthy as we are, or even a state as wealthy as California, where there's a lot of homelessness, that it even exists, blows my mind. It just doesn't seem like it should, But because there's no political will, because there's no money or power to be made in it, it does exist. And to me, in this country, that's really a shameful thing, in my opinion. So safe haven means having a home, but I think it also means having a place that is what is your jam, right? Like, is it like music? Is it art? Is it watching movies? Is it like, where do you go to? Is it taking walks in the forest? Is it jogging? My son is jujitsu. He freaking is obsessed with it. When I talk to him after he comes out of jiu-jitsu, he's exhausted, but he's happy. Where's your safe haven? Where do you recharge? Where do you do what you love? Because life's too short not to do something you better find something you love, man. Our life is just going to be too much of a drag,
Mm.
Yeah. So who are some of your favorite songwriters?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I have to say, and I really try. I learned a long time ago through when I was younger, and my acting mentor would say, you need to study the method greats, study Brando, study James Dean, study Monty Cliff. I did, but I was smart enough to realize I was never going to be those guys. Like, I was never going to be those charismatic, good-looking dudes, leading dudes, right? Like, I was able to figure that out. So I was like, I can learn from their technique, but I'm never going to be them. I got to find my own voice. So I feel the same way about music, right? So, but I think as far as writing goes, I grew up in a Chicano neighborhood where oldies were a thing, right? Like, KRLA was the radio station. So, like, one of my favorite songs is Aaron Neville do "Tell It Like It Is." I just love that song. It makes me cry. I think his voice is. If I could sing like Aaron Neville, I would sing like Aaron Neville. But who can? I mean, that guy has a falsetto that goes into a falsetto. It's just this amazing, beautiful voice, But I think those 50s songs are written by people like Carol Kane and stuff were really structured well, and I think that my DNA, and I think it helped me be a better songwriter. But if I had to point out another person I'm a big fan of that I could never be like, but I'm a big fan of is James.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Are you there, Kat?
I'm here, but I think it's showing Courtney's still there, but I don't think he is, actually.
Oh. Alrighty.
I don't know what to do. I could try to call him back. I don't know. It's showing, like I said, he's still here, but
yeah.
I guess I'll end it and try to call.
Okay.
He's now disconnected, so I'll see if he calls
All right.
back. If not, I'll try.
That's weird.
Yeah, right. When who is he gonna say?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll try.
Okay.
That's assuming that I can see the number. Yeah, I think I can. Okay, so I got voicemail. It looks like he sent me a message on Facebook. Let's see.
Okay.
What did he say? My phone is showing no service.
Okay. Well, that's kind of weird.
Okay, here he comes.
Okay.
All right.
And then it was working again. And right now, with no service, I shut the phone off, put it back on, and it seems to be working. So let us hope. So finishing the influences are people I admire, songwriters. Janice Ian, Between the Lines, I think is one of the best records ever crafted, and at 17 is just a heartbreak of a song.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
she's somebody I think she's an absolute poet.
Well, so it sounds like a lot of the influences, would have come at an early age, or at least the music is older music. So you grew up listening, you loved listening to music as well as, did you listen as a songwriter at that point, or is it separate for you? Are there songs you like, but you don't really like them because of the writing aspect?
I think I probably like them all because of the good writing. Just like why do you like a good movie, right? But I know that like so I'm also smart enough to realize like I'm not going to be Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean? Like so I try to find like what I can do, and for me it's connecting. As an actor, like what I do best, I think, is my ability to connect to a mood. Some people like to call it a feeling, like that, where I can generate whatever mood I need to get to, and I can get to some pretty dark ones if I need to, right? But I can take even if it's happy, I can take it to a big level. I think as a songwriter, I try to do the same thing. I try to capture a mood. It's more about what I call vibe, and I get in trouble. Like I'll be trying to mix something with a mixing engineer, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling the vibe of this guitar, and he's like, I don't mix vibe, because like from a technical point of view, you know, they don't care what I'm talking about, So I'm like, yeah, but from a fucking feeling point of view, you hear what I'm saying. I may not have the technical knowledge of what you're trying to say here, but you're not getting the, if you don't capture some kind of vibe or mood or something, you've caught nothing as far
Mm.
as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I listened to Lookout, and to me, it had a very like Santana mood, that kind of vibe. Let's go with that.
Yeah, well, I would agree that guitar lick in there is Santana like. I would absolutely agree with that. I think it's funny that you picked up on that. It wasn't intentional. The guitar player that put the lead in, some of it was too busy, and I was like, you know what? I like this little thing. Da 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 da. Da, na, na, na. I said, let's pop that in throughout the song, And at first he was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Just try it. You'll see what I'm saying." And then it came out pretty cool. But yeah, that song is one of the newer songs I wrote. Is about a classic story. I wasn't thinking about it; just came through me, of a boxer who was told he has to throw a fight. You know, and
Mm.
I always thought like how tough something like that would be for someone like me. You know what I mean? Who's it's not about, I may not be, if we used boxing, and I actually have used this analogy before. I would say, as an actor, you wouldn't want to get in a ring with me. I could throw down. You know, and uh, I believe in doing your best. You may not be the best, but I believe in doing your best. I really do, and I believe putting your best effort out is important. And to have to do something like that, to have to get in a ring and tank, I think would just be really heartbreaking. I don't think I would. I think I would take it extremely personally. Myself. So I've always thought about that kind of thing. Like, what would you do if you were put in that position? It's a pretty tough position to be put in. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I'm listening to your songs, the things that you're talking about, that the messages from them, I'm thinking like, okay, so now you got another song possibility. It could be like, you're the boxer, and you get offered to throw the fight, and in exchange they'll let you go into space on the what would you say to that?
Yeah, at least that's a good offer, right? At least you get something out of it.
Yeah.
I just saw this on YouTube. I just saw this documentary on one of the greatest. My father was a big boxing fan, and I would say I'm some and know something about it. My son's a big martial arts fan, so it kind of runs in the bit. Archie Moore was considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. And he didn't get a title shot, even though he was ranked #1 for a decade, because he wouldn't capitulate to the mob.
Mm.
And he went to the press and created this press campaign where he just sort of exposed the entire situation to the point where they finally had to give him a title shot. And the guy he fought against, who was the champion, said, I won't do it. And this was, a long time ago. He said, I won't do it for less than $10,000. And they got the money together to pay him. And Archie Moore, who got the championship, made $800. But that's how bad he wanted to be a champ. I'm surprised nobody's made that movie yet. I mean, that's a man of high integrity. Like, wow, not only talented, but was like not going to sell out. That's I think somebody should make that movie. I think it's better than a movie about Muhammad Ali myself.
Well, so we're making all kinds of career things for you to add to your list.
I can't play Archie Moore, I'm afraid. I wish I could, but
Well, I was thinking, like, it doesn't seem like 2 years since you've been here, but it really does not seem like 40 years since Children of the Corn.
Yes.
So yes. You have timed this so perfectly. The 40th year anniversary and the tour for Safe Haven. And so where are you going to start the tour? Tell us about that.
So, yeah, it was completely unintentional. It just took longer to get this record done and get it out, but it's sort of timed up. I can't really tell you much in that regard. Now, the only gig I can tell you about that's outside of Savannah right now is there's a haunted house called the Haunted Pyramids in, I think it's Lawton, North Carolina, that they're going to have 3 nights of bands as well, and my band's going to be playing 2 nights. All the rest of the bands, from what I'm told, are going to be metal. So I can't wait to go play for that crowd, because that's my fan base right there, right? I may not be playing metal, but that's my fan base. So we're coming there to rock them, showing how the old timers do it. So it's going to be fun. So that's the first thing we know. And I got a booking agent now, so we're going to be doing it. So I'm going to be trying to linchpin things off of, like, if I get in some big conventions, then I know I can maybe do a tour up to there and back with the band, right? And like we're going to be doing 35 millimeter print screenings at some art houses across the country, where then we'll do a Q&A, and the band can play and do a VIP meet and greet. So I'm trying to figure out these ways to sort of make this thing financially feasible. It's not like I'm in a big record label that they're like, we're going to fund this and you can go on the road for 150 days out of the year. It's going to be like 10 days in the West Coast, 10 days in the Midwest. The best way you're going to be able to find out what's going on is to go to my band page, Courtney Gains group on Facebook, and that's where we'll be announcing things as they unfold next year. But we will definitely be out there doing stuff.
Awesome. I mean, this sounds like an amazing tour to have all of it come together, and to be able to watch the film and have the question and answers, meet you and the band, and and then hear the music. That's just amazing. So
it should be fun. Fun.
I hope that you're in this vicinity of Kentucky or close by. And
what's the biggest big city near you?
Lexington.
Okay. Yeah. I've done that Lexington convention a few times. Maybe I'll get to do that convention again. It's a good one.
That would be great, because I know there's a big fan base here and that goes to that. So wonderful. Yeah. Well, so what is it about music that acting doesn't give you, like, as a creative outlet? What is it that music does give you that you don't get anything else?
Again, so my musical approach is completely different than my acting approach. Like, if I had approached music as a living, I would have studied it and learned all these different techniques and styles so that I could get studio gigs, so I could be a gigging musician, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I set out to do musically. That's what I did as an actor. Like, I'm a hired gun, right? In a movie, I'm one person who gets hired to portray a certain role, and all I really have to concentrate on is my job, right? And I get to be part of a bigger thing. But musically, it's about what I think. It's about what I feel. It's coming from me. So it's a different animal, in that way. And they're little short stories. They're told in 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So it's a different animal, and it's much more quote unquote personal. I may be using something personally in a role, but you won't know what it is, right? As a method actor, I may be using, the death of my dog, and you won't know, right? It's getting me into the mood I need to get into to play this scene. But as a musician, I have nowhere to hide. These are my thoughts. This is what I think. This is what I feel. These are my points of view. So it's in that way, it has a certain level of satisfaction.
Well, Matt, do you have a question that you'd like to ask? I
Yeah.
have one more.
So Courtney, you said that you play guitar and bass. Are there any other instruments that you play? You're just talking about percussion, but like, what do you gravitate
No,
towards?
that's it. I've only been playing bass for like 9 months. I sort of think I just play rhythm guitar on bass. Basically, is what I do. But it's been really good to take it on, though, because it's really opened my ears. And even though I do covers in my band, I try to interpret songs, because I'm not only am I necessarily not capable, but I'm also not interested in playing them like the other people, exactly like the record,
Yeah.
right? So, like, for example, a really good example, I think, is we do "Stay or Go," by the Clash.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my first thought on that immediately was, I like that song, but like, you're never going to be like the way the Clash play the song. It's the angst of the Clash, right?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
attitude of the Clash. So if you try to play it like the Clash, in my mind, as a cover band, it's just going to be a little cheesy, right? You're never going to be as cool as the Clash.
Yeah.
So at least that's my take on it. So when I started to learn the bass line, I realized that the bass line actually is very rooted in like 50s groove. Like, I was sort of shocked, like that bass line was hiding underneath all that punk and attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So once I discovered that, sort of opened a way for me to interpret the song. So we play it. I play it with like much more of a 50s kind of groove, and instead of we only play the double time in the chorus once. The second time we come back, we play it single, and you really can at that point hear how much more of a sort of a 50s groove there is underneath the song, and people still know it's the song, and they still sing the song, but it's interpreted in a way that's like, check this out. Maybe there's roots to this song that they're showing us that I didn't even know was there until I learned to play the bass line. So I like to do things like that. I often say in the songs when I'm playing them, you'll recognize this song eventually.
So, are you enjoying playing bass, or have you found it to be difficult?
No, I'm enjoying it. And no, I haven't found it difficult really, for the most part, because it's in having come from guitar and 6 strings and chords, it's kind of simplified it. Now that's now a real bass, real true bass player would probably be finding a lot of flaw in the way I play. Like you don't know the root, blah blah blah. You're right. I don't know. I wrote this song and this is how it goes, and the dudes have to follow along. That's why I hired them, because they kick ass, But to me, it seems to be working out. I feel like we have a definite vibe going. As a matter of fact, recently we just played a gig. If you go on the Facebook page, a couple scrolls down now, you can hear the new guitar player we brought in wanted to do Voodoo Child, and we do we jam off on that one, and we play. I think he doesn't put the whole thing up, but he put up about 5 minutes of it though, and it's a jam. I'm like, whoa, we're really like jamming here,
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So if you want to hear the kind of rock and roll we're doing, jump on there and check it out. I'm pretty impressed with what we're doing. I feel like we got a pretty good band going for a little 3-piece. I think we're making some noise. So
Cool. Yeah. So no plans to like jump behind the drums or anything?
No. Not even, the drummer I've got is like you'll see him in this song. He's doing some crazy fills and stuff. Yeah, but not taking away from anything. Like,
Yeah.
but he just in the moment improvs. Like he doesn't, he keeps the beat, he keeps the time, but at the same time he plays to how he feels at that moment, which is awesome. I think it makes the live experience much more spontaneous and fresh. And you'll see, if you see the song, he goes off, man. He's very talented. He's been drumming like 30 years. Drummer from Connecticut, and moved down to Savannah, and he's played in a lot of prog bands and tribute bands, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm happy to have him. His name's Christopher Angeletti, and he brings a lot to the party.
Cool. So what do you got going on? I mean, you're doing a tour and stuff, and what else you got going on? Anything coming up that you want to talk about?
I can't talk about anything coming up because of the strike, but I really don't have much to say anyway. But really, it's so far the focus is the 40th anniversary of Korn conventions and the band. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be work next year once this bummer of a strike gets over, which, man, that's a real... I saw this coming a long time ago, and I really associate it to very similar to what happened to the music industry. Once everything went digital, it was the kiss of death, you know? And I really feel the same thing is happening in the movie industry. And it was, in the music industry, it was the death of the CD that made musicians lose a lot of money. Now it's the death of, cinema, theaters, and television because of residual income. The residual income for a middle-class actor like myself is the difference between making a living or not. That would save your ass in the slow times. And now with the streaming, and they're keeping it on the black box. They're not saying who's watching what, and they're not paying much. It's really gonna kill the talent pool, is what I think it's going to do. All the supporting actors who won't be able to make a living are either going to have to find another side hustle, or they're just going to leave altogether and go to greener pastures. And I think that happened in the music industry. I think you had some of the youngest and brilliant minds in the 60s and 70s, and even the 80s doing music because they could have fun and make a living at it. But I think when that dries up, people do things. The greatest minds go to Silicon Valley and make video games and things like that. So I think they're going to lose a lot of talent over the next decade. I really feel bad for the actors coming up because I just don't know how they're going to be able to make ends meet.
Yeah, and then you got the whole AI thing, and
yeah, and I saw that coming a long time ago too, and I understand that. I think we'll be able to negotiate if you want to use, my voice or my likeness, you're going to have to pay for it. I think I just saw a thing on CNN that a bunch of novel writers like Grisham, that they're all suing AI, GPT. You can't just take those guys' stuff, dump it in the computer, and say, okay, now write like those guys.
Right.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to get a lot of pushback, and I think they're going to have to license the rights to those things, and I think that's fair, and I think that'll happen. But residuals is the real kicker. That seems to me to be the real. There's a lot of people complaining and saying, here's the problem, but I have yet to see anybody online, anybody offer a solution. And I think it's because there probably isn't one.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing that happened in the music business. There was no solution. The only thing that the music business was able to do was they just went into getting a lot of catalogs. And so they have a lot of music. And now how they make their money is they place it in commercials and television and films. And then people discover the bands, like, oh, who's that band? That's a cool song. Oh, Journey. Oh, what else have they done? Oh, they buy a few songs. And that's how the younger generation discovers these bands,
Yeah.
But as far as making new records and making money off those, the only way bands make money now is touring, and
merchandise,
selling T-shirts.
Yeah.
And I think it's hurt the industry big time. And I just think the same thing's going to happen. I'm actually, just thankful this is not I'm not in this generation coming up. Because I think unfortunately Silicon Valley is killing it all, man. And that's how I see it now. I'm starting to see it like people have been talking about Silicon Valley and the elite for a long time. Now it's coming to my doorstep, and I'm feeling it,
Yeah. All right, Kat, one more question.
All right, so I think a good question to end on is like, of all the songs, 2, 3, whatever you want to list, but for you personally, what are the 2 or 3 greatest songs of your life?
Whew. Well, I told you before, first off, Tell It Like It Is. I think is just one of the greatest songs. That's one of my faves. What else?
Now, there's so many to choose from.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. I was trying to think of gosh, I don't know. It's really tough. And I'm terrible at thinking of the names of songs anyway, the titles of songs. But trying to think like what would be one of my favorite. I mean, I'm definitely a big Zeppelin fan. I think the Zeppelin's kind of interesting. I think they're huge and they're well known, but somehow I still feel like they're underrated somehow. I feel like they're still under the radar a little bit. Because I think conceptually their albums are just fantastic, how they flow from one song to the next. I can't think which one I want to pick, though. It's a tough question. God. I think more of like albums. Like if I had to pick an album, like Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
That. Greatest concept album maybe ever, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good note, to end on.
There you go. I think it still like sells like a bazillion records a year still to this day because it's just such a monumental achievement,
Yeah. And have you watched any of the reaction videos where people hear stuff like that for the first time?
I have some, yeah, but not. I can't think of a Pink Floyd one, but other ones, like when people like see like Stevie Ray Vaughan play like Little Wing or something, they're just like, what the hell is this?
Exactly.
But I think that's the case. I think this, the younger generation here doesn't realize like how many amazing, like Jeff Beck, or
for sure.
Like I don't think they know who these people are, And then when they hear them, I don't think that there's just not that level of musicianship anymore because everything's being done digitally and everything's being done with these voice boxes to make everybody sound perfect.
Yeah.
And they don't know who they don't know who the great voice like Phoebe Snow is or something like that. That are just like these beautiful, thing. I just don't think that it just isn't on that level anymore. I think music's. I think a lot of it sucks now, but that just might be me getting old, right? I don't know, but some of these songs, like the guy just says like two things, like
yeah.
Like, and it just goes. There's no melody. There's no. I'm like, how is this a song? This is a song. These kids today, what the hell is that?
He's kicking off my lawn.
Exactly.
All right, Courtney, we're gonna let you go. And thank you so much for your time.
Great, good talking to you guys. Good talking to you again. See you guys again. Even if I don't see you, and hopefully we'll be coming your way.
All right.
Yeah. Be looking for you in Lexington, hopefully.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, sir. Take care. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iwriteplease@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.